Okay, we're doing an Ask Me Anything episode. I have miles of questions that you guys sent me. Also, slightly unhinged energy because recorded a bunch of interviews today. So let's do this. You're going to get me at my most raw and unfiltered. Fun way to do an Ask Me Anything. Look, got a bunch today from what you could save versus invest. What does my personal investment portfolio look like? Hint, I am super lazy. It's going really well for me. When you should admit defeat and sell your investments. And also, how do you financially recover if you've just hit reset on your life, and a whole bunch more. So, welcome to Making Sense. It's the podcast for people who want financial freedom without giving up their coffee. And I'm Frances Cook, a financial journalist and fellow financial freedom seeker who makes money simple for you. And just a quick reminder on this. I know that I am answering your questions that you've sent me. Love it. This is, of course, general financial information. It is not individualized financial advice. Some of these questions are like 3 words long, so I don't know your personal financial situation. I'll be talking general rules of the game, what will work for most people in most situations handling this. If, of course, your situation is different, trust your gut. You know your life better than I do. And if you really want that individualized financial advice, talk to a financial advisor. Did a great episode on that, September 7th, I think, how to find a good financial advisor. So there you go. You can go back in the archives to find that. Until then, let's crack into it. First up, what's the best bank account setup to automate and maximize good habits? Okay, so this will depend a little bit. I know, I'm sorry. We're starting off this Ask Me Anything with it depends, but it kind of does. When you are looking at your bank account setup, I am a big believer in get as many bank accounts as you can in order to streamline your thinking so that you don't have to have categories in your budget. You just have categories of bank account. But what those categories are will kind of depend on your life. So obviously you might have an everyday bank account. You probably want an emergency savings bank account and maybe some longer term savings. And then you can have a bunch of different bank accounts for whatever your life priorities are. So to give you an example, I have a savings account for vet bills. I have a savings account for birthday presents. We're definitely in that season. Some people will have bank accounts set aside for tithing or donations. So what you really want to think about, what are the categories where you end up spending quite often, whether or not it's every week or it's every few months, but then you can put things aside into it. Now, the key here is when you are setting up these multiple bank accounts, you probably want to go with, for most of them, online only access, because that will mean they are no fee, or at least very low fee. But you want to make sure that having all of these extra bank accounts, you're not paying fees on them. That's very easy to do these days. You do just have to double check because you don't want something like a $5 fee on each one every month. That'll add up really soon. So short and sweet, pay off debt or invest. In almost every situation, you want to pay off debt first, because the problem with debt is that it costs you more than an investment will make. Sucks. I know, it's simply how life is. You know, a good share market investment on average gives you between 7 to 10% per year, depending on how you're calculating that. A credit card could be 15, 16, 17%, a car loan more that it's costing you. So the good thing about paying that off, any extra payment you make on that, you can count as almost an investment return. You are saving yourself rich. The only exception to that is very long-term debt, things like a mortgage. So that's when you have to balance that out a bit more, because a mortgage is, for a lot of people, a 30-year commitment. I hope that you would make extra repayments and pay that off faster. But it's still a many-year commitment. So you might want to start investing alongside that. I certainly do. But that's kind of the only exception to the rule, is those very long-term, lower-cost debts. Apart from that, pay those debts off, cull them, get rid of them. Every extra repayment that you make, in New Zealand at least, goes onto the principal, so you can pay that off faster. You can save yourself all the interest and fees. You will feel so good once that debt is gone. And then you can do the fun things like investing. All right. To maximize wealth long term, should I have savings in a bank plus shares or one at a time? And then someone else said, very similar question, so I'm putting you together. Should you prioritize building your small emergency fund or investing, or make smaller contributions to both? Okay. So the general rule of thumb for most people is you want 3 months of your core expenses as savings put aside for those horrible life moments. If you are self-employed or freelance, you might want more. Some people will put aside 6 months of those core living expenses as savings. And then that can get you through any unexpected curveballs. The problem with that is that's quite a bit of money, right? That might take you, if you're at the beginning of this, that might take you quite a while to save up. So there are lots of different approaches on this. The approach that I quite like is you want to make sure you have at least $1,000 of cash savings to save you from life's whoopsie moments, like the car needing repair, or your cat throws up at midnight and has to go to the emergency vet, and we love that for you. That's going to be expensive. We don't want to chuck that on the credit card because that's going to pull you backwards. So $1,000 of savings set aside for that. And then the approach that I think makes sense is you can start both putting aside long-term savings and some investments at the same time, a bit to each, just to get you started. Because learning to invest takes a bit of time. Starting small is really good. Starting early is really good. So if you're splitting it across like that, then you are both building up your safety net and building up your skills for the investing. It's less about the dollar amounts in investing at first than it is about getting started, figuring it out, watching what happens with your money and getting comfortable with it. If I have $100 a week, should I pay onto the mortgage or invest? And another question, I've rolled you in together again. When is it better to pay off more on your mortgage each week versus investing that money? This is where we have numbers versus mindset. So on the pure numbers, paying off more on your mortgage makes sense. A mortgage rate, it changes over the years, right? Interest rates change. We all know this. We've watched, inflation be crazy and the official cash rate go up and down. So I think most of us know interest rates will change, but you can get roughly, let's say, 5% mortgage rates over a period of time. You compare that to, I could put my money into the share market. It could be earning between 7 to 10% per year. Well, on that, it looks like the share market's winning, right? Except you need to take into account inflation. You need to take into account taxes. You might have fees on your account. After that, the share market often comes out still ahead, but only just. Meanwhile, paying off more on your mortgage, that debt payment has to go out every week or every month, whatever you've set up, rain, hail, or shine. The bank's not going to let you get away with that. So if you pay it off early, you've got rid of this huge fixed cost that gives you much more life flexibility and money flexibility, right? So that's a really big one, and it's really good for your money. Here's the problem with that, and you'll know if you've listened to these episodes before that your money, the pure numbers, is one thing. Making sure we actually do it is another. People tend to get to the end of paying down their mortgage. They're so close, so close. And then they say, well, we're almost there. So we'll just quickly put in a pool or redo the kitchen or add a bedroom. We'll then pay off that extra bit of the mortgage too, and it's only a little bit more and it'll be fine. And that is fine, except you might keep extending. Or sometimes, lose a job, you extend out the mortgage term. It's so easy to put off investing forever. And what you don't want to do, this happens to a lot of people, but I don't want this for you, is get to retirement and only have a paid off house. Because you're going to need to turn the heating on, you're going to need to eat, you're going to, maybe do some fun things like take the grandkids to the movies. And all of that takes money coming in. You don't want to be going to work for that when you're 70. you would like to have investments to help you with that. And investments, the power of them is in time. You need to start early. That's how they can earn more for you. It's when you've had 10 or 20 years that they will then be really good. So the way I like to do it, that takes into account both the numbers and the human psychology of it, is I take a little extra payment, that extra money that's building my future, and I put half of it as an extra payment on the mortgage and half of it as an investment into the share market. And with those, I'm both building my stability and security by paying off that debt, and I am creating income for the future by investing. So I hedge my bets. I think you don't have to pick one or the other. Why do we always think we've got to pick one or the other? I just got a pay rise. I've been struggling for a long time and I want to enjoy it. Yeah, girl, do. But how much lifestyle creep is too much? So I immediately say, yeah, girl, enjoy it. But you mentioned lifestyle creep, and that's a real danger, right? Because we want to enjoy our money now, but we also want to build a good future. And it is a tension, especially if you've been working so hard and you've really worked on this. So when you hit a big milestone like this, I really like to have a big blowout celebrate. Take that first paycheck, celebrate, whatever that is for you. For me, it would be going out to dinner and having too many drinks because I'm hedonist bot and I like to eat and drink my way through life. It's great. But, whatever works for you, if that's going on a little trip, if it's buying something you've had your eye on and you haven't been able to justify it, go for it. Enjoy it. Have a one-off celebration that you really enjoy and savor it and congratulate yourself and be all about that moment. And I love this for you. You've worked hard. Enjoy it. From there, you've got two choices, and it will depend a little bit on how big the new income is, and how restricted you've been beforehand. You could go back to your previous budget and save and invest everything that you have extra. Or you could say, I'm going to allow 20% lifestyle creep. I'm going to look at my budget. I'm going to say there's this much more that I could take 20% of this pay rise and I could increase my life. And the rest of it goes towards building my future goals. I don't think you want to let the whole paycheck be soaked up automatically because that is super easy to have happen. And like you say, it'll be lifestyle creep. You'll look back in 10 years and be like, where did that money go? And did I even really enjoy it? But you do want to enjoy it along the way. So I think a big blowout celebration and then either going back to reality or a little percentage of that pay rise. What would you suggest I set up for my kids, 20 and 22, for them to keep contributing into? Okay, so the age here is super important. If they were under, they've just changed the KiwiSaver rules. So I'd say if they were under 16, then I wouldn't really bother with KiwiSaver. I would get them into something like shares, because they wouldn't be getting things like the government contribution, the employer contribution, and it's kind of not worth it to lock your money away until first home or 65. What if they want to travel for quite a while and don't plan to buy a first home, but they could have started a business? They might have wanted that seed money in KiwiSaver. It's locked away. But once you're over that age, so you've got a 20 and 22-year-old. In that case, the minimum contributions at least into KiwiSaver, because then you're getting the government contribution, the employer contribution. Those things are brilliant. I always take free money when it's on offer. It's brilliant for you. The only thing better than investing money is investing someone else's money. So that works really well. But then after that, if they're making the minimum contributions, maybe look at a shares account or something like that. The key is at this age, they are young. They probably have a long time frame on goals for their money. There's a lot they can do by having the time on their side. They can achieve a lot without too much money. So a good growth KiwiSaver, a shares account, those are the sorts of things to look for. Ooh, these ones are getting personal. What does your investment portfolio look like? And then the second one, which funds do you invest into and who do you use? So I'm not going to say who I use just because I'm such a big advocate for the reason we put the disclaimers on this of the individualized advice is your goals can be so different. And if I say, oh, I do something, people take that as my endorsement of what everyone should do. And you might want different types of investments or different fees might make sense for the amount you're willing to put in. But what I'll tell you is the way I do it. So I have two different shares platforms that I like to use. I also have two banks that I split my savings accounts across. And this is me being an absolute little worrywart. I do not think our financial system is going to collapse anytime soon. But if my bank happened to collapse, I'm not stuck, terrified with absolutely no cash. If my shares investing company happens to collapse, they use something called a custodial system. If you would like me to explain that in a future episode, let me know. I'm very happy to. They use a custodial system, which means mostly your money just gets frozen and then returned to you if the worst thing happens with your shares investment company. But you have to wait quite a while. It can be quite a process, and I'm talking like a couple of years sometimes. So if I don't want to wait that long, I've got other investments there that I can access. This is just me being a super worrywart and splitting across two banks, two shares investments companies that I like. It's just, one way to up the safety. And then from there, you say, what funds do I get into? What investments do I get into? I am so lazy. I cannot emphasize enough how lazy I am with my money. I am a really good example of you don't have to be paying that much attention. You don't have to be working too hard at this. It is the easy wins consistently every week or every month that will get you ahead. So I pretty much just stick all of my investments into one global index fund. And that means it's spread across different countries, different industries, different businesses. It is literally several thousand companies in there, the biggest companies in the world, that I then get a little piece of the action. It comes back to me. And then an index fund means that it's all done automatically. It's computers that are handling most of this. That keeps it really low fee for me. Do not underestimate fees. They eat more of your money than you think. Cut every fee that you can. So yeah, I love an index fund for that. Makes it super easy. And my husband and I love to just check each other's share portfolios against each other. That sounds so ludicrous. Our household, an exciting time. But we do. We like to check our share portfolios against each other, see who's doing better. He still loves a good index fund, but he picks a few companies on the side as well. And it kills him that my extremely lazy, the auto payment is in, huck it into an index fund, what's for dinner situation, it's destroying him. It's absolutely leaving him in the dust. I am a good 10% ahead of him in terms of the gains over the years. He'll bring up his portfolio and be like, ooh, he had a really good month last month. And I think he'd hit 33% gains. This is over several years. We're not insane great investors. He'd hit 33% gains all up over several years. He was like, yes, I'm doing great. What's yours at? And I was like, I don't know. Pulled mine up. 44. Just casually smashed him. And you best believe I'm so smug about this. I'm horrible. I really rub this in because I'm not thinking about this at all. It's just an auto payment and it goes, I'm not thinking about it. So yeah, index and chill, man. There's no need to overcomplicate. However, I will say we all go through a phase when we start investing where we love to pick companies. Some of us then move out of that phase. Some of us do not. So if you're new to investing, I'm sure you will go through that and then come back. Come join me on the index and chill when you realize how good it is. What do you do next once you have enough savings but don't want more share market exposure? Oh, okay. So you do actually have options. It depends a bit on your budget. Property is an obvious one. A lot of people feel safer with property. I will say property is a very active investment. You're not going to be just able to invest in it and leave it alone the way you can with the share market. You will have tenants of one sort or another. There are often repairs that need to be made. So just be aware of that. There are a lot of people promising systems that can give you passive property investment. I've never seen one yet that I've been convinced by. It's active, which is fine if that's what you're wanting, but you just need to know it's what you're getting into. Also, of course, needs a big old deposit. So it depends what your financial situation is. However, if you don't want to do property, that's cool. We've got another option for you. We don't talk about this enough. Bonds. So bonds are a type of investment. If we're thinking about it's not very risky, but it doesn't give you very much cash savings versus share market. It's going to go up and down a lot, but it's going to give you more over time. Bonds sit on that scale around the middle. They would be above a term deposit in terms of what they'll give you and also in terms of their risk. They are below property and shares in terms of less risky, but won't give you as much. So bonds are basically, you are investing in someone else having debt. It could be a government. You can get New Zealand government bonds, US Treasury bonds, or it can be commercial. Things like Auckland Airport had bonds where they were raising money to, I think it was for a new runway or something. I didn't buy any. And you could buy Auckland Airport bonds. And then because it's debt, they're paying you back at an agreed percentage over a certain agreed length of time. So it is higher. We talked before about debt costs more than savings will make you. Well, debt will also earn you more than savings will make you. The risk is if the company goes under and doesn't pay anyone back, or if the government falls apart, which is not often I don't think US Treasury bonds are a problem on that, or the New Zealand government, despite all of the, scary headlines that you'll see. I don't think the governments are actually going under anytime soon, but it can happen. Venezuela, so there are different types of bonds. There are what's called junk bonds, which if you're just getting into it, probably don't get into those. But if you're looking at, countries that are well established or high value companies that are very unlikely to go under, bonds can be a good intermediate option. So there you go. Ooh, I like this one. Another personal question. What's your dollar number for retirement? I don't really have one. And I know I talk about financial independence and financial freedom on here so much. And yet I don't have this goal number for when I could early retire. And I think the thing is that I'm not actually myself aiming for early retirement. I want financial independence so that if things go a little crazy, if business goes bad, that it's not going to freak me out. But I actually really like my job, and I like being able to do things that technically aren't a good use of money, but it's fine because I've got an income. I like being able to, we're going to, this is going to immediately date the video for anyone who's watching this, but we're going to the monster trucks this weekend with the kids. And is that a good use of money? I mean, no. But maybe it'll be good memories for the kids. I don't know. The littlest one's only 16 months old. So no, he's not going to remember this. The 4-year-old might. But it's fun. And I want to see monster trucks go vroom as well. Life is for living, right? And because I'm not early retired, that's fine. But I think what this comes back to as well is the different types of financial independence you can have. Let's stick with the two that I think are the most relevant here. Barista Fire is more what I aim for. Fat Fire, I think, is what most people think of when they think of financial independence. So Fat Fire is you have saved up so much money, you can live off $200,000 out of your investments every single year. You're loaded, you're good, you're on a beach forever, which I think is unattainable for the vast, vast majority of us. But Barista Fire is. So Barista Fire is that you have enough set aside that you can pay your core expenses no matter what. But then you go and you live a good life and you can have some sort of part-time income or flexible income, or you use that as a base to do something like start your own business, which is exactly what I did. And then you have the income coming in for enjoying a little bit more of life's pleasures, but guilt-free because you know you're sussed underneath that. And it takes a lot of the stress out of life. And that, I think, is attainable for a lot of people. I certainly attained that way earlier in life than I would have thought possible. The fact that I'm kind of already there, which to be there before 40 is wild. And not really what I was planning on. But yeah, you can get there faster than you think once you start putting the reps in with your finances. So that doesn't necessarily answer your question, but I think it gives you the mindset that I think is actually more useful. I hope. You'll probably be in the comments being like, no, but that's what you get. Oh, best budget apps. Pocketsmith and YNAB, which stands for You Need a Budget. Get so many shout outs in my comments and DMs all the time, so people love those. I would also say you don't necessarily need a budgeting app. Some people love them. You can also get really far with a spreadsheet if that's what you like, or a money diary. This one people underrate. Just keep a diary of every single thing you spend for 1 week. And I mean like $2 for a chocolate bar, put it in there. And you'll be amazed at what that money diary tells you. And also next to it, this is a key part of the money diary, or at least my version of, put next to every bit of spending, did you need it? And I mean a true need. But also, don't forget this bit, did it make you happy? Because that's also part of our money life that we underrate. We tend to feel like being good with money means we are spending the least, we're being super good, super frugal, we're being a monk. No, your money should be there to help you enjoy whatever your version of your best life is. But when you see it written down, it's really going to make you reassess, actually, that didn't bring me any happiness. Why did I even do that? Or it did make me happy, but I could have got this 1/5 of the cost version and it would have made me just as happy. So budgeting apps are great, but I also think just try that money diary for 1 week. It's going to blow your mind. It really will. Okay, I've wrapped these up together. If someone has saved up $100,000, what should they do? Followed by, we have money sitting in the bank, $200,000, but don't know where to put it. What a fabulous problem to have. For starters. But also, this would take more time than a quick Ask Me Anything episode. But the good news is I've actually had a full letter come through for an Ask the Experts. We're going to rip into this and really lay everything out. So that'll be a full Ask the Experts episode. I think I've got it scheduled for 2 weeks after this episode comes out. So keep an eye out on that. Stay tuned. We are going to answer that. Oh, okay. Here we go. Should I keep shares long term, even if they've dropped substantially? This comes back to, so the share market does go up and down, right? And the standard advice when the share market goes down is hold your nerve. It's fine. This is normal. You'll maybe even see people saying like, oh, the share market's on sale, buy more. All of that applies to if you're buying a fund. So if you are buying something like the NZX 50, the top 50 companies in New Zealand, or a global index fund, if you are doing things like that, that's when the share market's gone down, everything's fine, maybe even buy more if you can afford it. That all applies then. Because what you're doing then is you're basically, say it's the NZX 50, you're basically buying into the New Zealand economy. Do businesses fail in New Zealand? Yes. Is the entire economy going to fall over, never to recover? Well, I certainly hope not. And if so, my share market portfolio will be the least of my worries. I'll be practicing my bow and arrow skills. So that's when that's all fine. That advice sometimes gets confused when people have bought into an individual company. Now, if you've bought into an individual company, let's go with a really ludicrous example just so that you can stay across it. Let's say Apple. Clearly, I don't think Apple's actually going to keel over, but we're going to treat it like they might. You buy shares in Apple. Their share price starts plummeting. They have just invested everything into this new tech. It's not working. They're deeply in debt. There's questions of whether the CEO is going to resign. They're thinking maybe this whole company is going to fold in 6 months. Are you going to buy more shares? Now, if you really think that the company is going to be fine and that this is all hype and it's silly, then maybe you might. And maybe you're right. And maybe you get a bargain and it all is fine and it bounces back and you're great. Or maybe the company does collapse. Now, here's how that works. If you're a shareholder in an individual company, you are one of the last in line to get your money back. So it depends a little bit on the country, what the rules are. Generally speaking, its employees get paid out first for things like any leave they've got owing. Debt will be cleared to any creditors, people who've supplied them. Shareholders, way down the list. There might not be any money to pay you back by the time they come to you. Or you might have spent $5, well, not if it's Apple, but I was going to say $5 a share and you get back 3 cents. That's going to suck. If the share price totally craters, you're not going to end up owing them any money. That's not going to happen. But you could lose everything you've put into it. So if you're saying the shares have dropped substantially, it depends if you put it into a fund or an individual company, for starters. And then if it is an individual company, what you want to ask yourself is, what do you think is the future of this company? Do you think they're going to bounce back? Or do you think it's all over? Yes, it sucks to sell if your shares have gone down in value. But sometimes, don't try to catch a falling knife, you know? So sometimes you just have to take that loss, accept it, and sell and put that money elsewhere. There's no real sort of red line moment, but it is just thinking to yourself about, what do I think the future of this company is? All right. Does a credit card really earn you enough through points? And does it make you spend more? So there is actually some research. There's lots of research on credit cards. But yeah, here's one little fun fact. You are twice as likely to impulse spend if you're using a credit card as you are if you're using cash. There's something about the swipe of cards that we all see it as just one swipe instead of $2,000 versus $20. There's something about handing over the physical cash. We more stay on track with what that money is actually doing. So it's the pain of purchase is reduced with a credit card. And companies know that. That's why they love you having a credit card. That's why they all have all the options for you to swipe away. The interesting thing actually is when you have faced the pain of purchase with paying cash for something, if you decide I do actually still want it and you are going to pay more for it with that cash, you're more likely to then enjoy it because there's something about our brain that is like, okay, well, I must have really wanted this, savor it, enjoy it. Credit card reward points have really changed recently in terms of the fees they're charging you are a lot more and the rewards you get for them are a lot less. So for many people, no, it won't be worth it anymore. For some people, it will. And I'm sorry to do a horses for courses answer. It's going to depend how much you're spending. If you have a business maybe and you run everything through the credit card, that can work for a lot of people. If you run all of your household bills like the power bill and things through the credit card, and make sure it's fully paid off and you never pay interest, that can work too. If you're someone who's quite frugal, you don't spend much, it quite potentially wouldn't be worth it over the fees. So yeah, it depends a bit on your spending. All right, last one. I went back to school, now have student loan debt again in my 30s. Is it possible to financially recover? Girl, yes! You're in your 30s. Look, I know that it's funny, isn't it? Because there's so much pressure on to hit these certain milestones. by certain life stages. But looking at your money life, even if we're only thinking about retirement, you have 3 decades until retirement. That's masses of time. You're so fine. If you're based in New Zealand, you have an interest-free student loan. Cool. Just pay it off as you go. Even in Australia, it's indexed to inflation, so the interest rate isn't too much. And hopefully, I don't know what you studied, but hopefully that was an investment in your earning power. Or maybe it was just an investment in enjoying your life more, but I would hope that there's been some sort of increase in your income through this, which is fantastic. I am a huge believer. We talk about investments all the time, and one thing that people don't acknowledge enough, investing into your earning power is actually probably the biggest investment you can make. It might be more powerful than share market investing. So if that's been what you've studied for to increase your income, fantastic. Please don't see this as a financial mistake. But even if not, you have masses of time. And I really think your 20s and 30s are very much about building skills, building experience, and then sort of mid to late 30s, even your 40s, is about then tapping that experience and being like, here we go, make the swing that makes the use of all of this. So you're fine. You've got so much time. Just make sure you're doing all of the standard things. Pay off your debt. Hopefully get those pay rises from your fancy new degree. Start making some little investments, even if it's only a little bit for now. You'll be great. Okay. I think that's a hopefully nice note to leave things on. Thank you so much for all of your questions. Send me through some more. We can do another Ask Me Anything anytime. But if this episode was helpful to you, subscribe to Making Sense wherever you listen, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, whatever. And of course, send it on to a friend as well so we can all get better with money together. Until next time, have a great day.
Just a note before you go. This podcast can only give you general information about how things work in most cases. It's not individual financial advice. We're all different, so some of this might not apply to your specific situation. Take what works for you, ignore the rest. If you're after individual financial advice, a financial advisor is always the best bet.